Hi, I'm Erin, and this is Erin Go Read. This is the third time, believe it or not, that I am filming this video. Hopefully we have audio this time. Check, check. This is the Booktube Spin video. Rick McDonnell came up with this idea last year, I think, to come up with like a fun way to get to books on, like adding a random way to read the books on your physical TBR. So what you do is you write out a list, you come up with a list of 20 books that you want to read, you assign a number to each book, and that way when the number comes up, it's associated with a specific book, and that is what you read for that term of the Booktube Spin. So he's choosing two numbers per quarter, and this is the 5th round. I will link Rick's channel below. He has already pulled the results for this, so I have written down my list. I have 4 categories of 5 books each, but I did the numbers kind of randomly so they're not in groupings per category, if that makes sense. So I'm going to quickly go through it by category, and then I'll show you. I have the list written down, and then I'll let you know what I got. So my first category is Booktube made me do it. I've done this before. I think actually last January, that was kind of like my entire theme for my January TBR was Booktube made me do it. So these are books that I have bought specifically because a Booktube in general or a specific booktuber has really liked this book. So the first is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I couldn't tell you specifically who it was, but I know that multiple people I've seen on Booktube have read this and loved it, and this is the chunkiest book on the list. I learned about Sarah Waters from mainly British booktubers. This is The Paying Guests. I read Fingersmith by Sarah Waters a couple years ago and absolutely loved it. I'm terrible at actually remembering what happened in books, but the Fingersmith is one that I actually remember the twist because it is it's amazing. It's the best twist I've ever read in a book. Probably the twist in Fingersmith and the ending of Rebecca are some of the most memorable book moments that I have. Another big British favorite is The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss, particularly Jen Campbell often references this book. Then we have Case Histories by Kate Atkinson. This is #1 in the Jackson Brodie series. I think he's a detective, and Simon Savage of Savage Reads loves this series. And then finally, we actually have a classic. This is Adam Bede by George Eliot. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, it's hard to see that one. But this would be my second George Eliot. I read Silas Marner, I think last January, actually. And it feels kind of like the gateway into George Eliot. Silas Marner is like a little aperitif, and Adam Bede is where we start to get a little bit more serious. I'm not ready to delve into Middlemarch quite yet, but Kim of Middle of the Book March and Kate Howe both really love Adam Bede. Then we'll move into the SFF category. So we have Laini Taylor's Strange the Dreamer. This was all over Booktube a few years ago, but what really compelled me to want to pick it up also was that my cousin Deborah loves this book. Really, all I know about it is that it's fantasy and it's beautiful lyrical writing. Then we have Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is the first in the second Red Rising trilogy. I read the first trilogy out loud to my husband, my late husband, and we were reading this, made it, I don't know, halfway through or so. And then the last year of his life, he was in the hospital over and over and over again. And what would typically happen is the book that we were reading together would be at his rehab home. We would go to the hospital, and then we would just pick up something else. And we just never got back to this one. And so I think there's just kind of been that emotional resistance to getting back into this, but I would really like to get back to this world. I think it starts 10 years after the end of the final book in the first trilogy. Then we have the third in the, the London's series, whatever the name of this series is called, by V.E. Schwab. This is A Conjuring of Light. Then we have the third, we got a little bit of a theme here in trilogies here, but this is the third in the Lady Astronaut series, The Relentless Moon by Mary Robinette Kowal. So this relates to how I got into Booktube in the first place. So I think it was April or May of 2018. I had just finished reading Arcadia by Ian Pierce, and also actually a big Jen Campbell favorite. And I just wanted to hear somebody else's thoughts on the book. I didn't have anybody to talk about it with, so I Googled it, and I came across Rachel Colinati's channel, and she was talking about that book in a video. And through watching her channel, she talked about The Calculating Stars, which is #1 in the Lady Astronaut series. So this reads more like historical fiction than it does sci-fi. There is definitely sci-fi related because initially it's about kind of the speeding up of the space race as a result of a meteorite hits I think in the ocean off the east coast of the United States, and it really escalates the climate change and the need to kind of escape Earth, really. But we have a lady astronaut who's at the heart of it and is just amazing. Then we have The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, book 1 in the Mistborn series. I have not read any Brandon Sanderson yet, and I even have these amazing British copies. And into the official classics category, we have The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, Excited but Intimidated, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Stoner by John Williams. Then we have The Professor by Charlotte Bronte, and The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Final category are books that I've bought recently and just haven't got around to. A couple of them I'm kind of fearing, will I ever get to them? Because maybe I already got the dopamine hit that I needed from them. The first is A Hero Born by Jin Yong, Legends of Condor House #1. So my late husband was very into ancient China, ancient Japan, samurai, ninjas, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, all that stuff. And this caught my eye because of that, but he also kind of got me sucked into that stuff. And so this is supposed to be like an epic Japanese war fantasy. Then we have The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is one that, I just kind of seen in the media a lot. I've seen in a lot of best of lists, and it was on the buy one, get one 50% off shelf or tables, honestly, at Barnes & Noble, and that's really what made me pick this one up. Then we have Matrix by Lauren Groff. I started listening to this on audio, was really intrigued by it, loved the beautiful writing, but I just was having a hard time following the story of it, so I thought this is one I would rather read in physical form, and so here it is, and it's quite short as well. We have the only nonfiction on the list. This is Cult Following, My Escape and Return to the Children of God by Bexie Cameron. So the author of this book, I know through I don't know her, but I know her boyfriend. So my parents, over the years since the early 2000s, have hosted European college kids as they are in the States over the summer selling books door to door. And the first group of boys that came, 3 were from England and 1 was from Ireland. And this is the girlfriend of one of those boys, and she was in this cult growing up, and this is her story about it. And then finally we have I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. This was one of those buy one, get one 50% off, but I have actually heard really good things about this one as well. It was a National Book Award finalist. So I actually know the result of this already. The first time I filmed this, I played Rick's video live and found out, but the numbers are numbers 8 and 13. And so number 8 on my list was The Relentless Moon by Mary Robert Cowell. Very excited about that. And the push that I need to get to this book, number 13, The Push. These are the books that I will be reading for quarter 1 of the Booktube Spin number 5. So if you are doing the Booktube Spin, what books will you be reading this quarter? Thank you for watching. See you around the tubes.